So this is an activity that I brought to European Science on Stage in Debrecen in 2017. It's an open-ended inquiry, and it asks students to look at a very sort of open question about the living condition, about the preferences that woodlice might have for living conditions or for environmental conditions. So students are asked to go and collect some woodlice from outside the school or from a park nearby or from their garden at home possibly, and they bring them back into the classroom. And by doing that, students have already some ideas about what kind of living conditions woodlice might prefer. So when they come into the classroom, then you ask them what kind of preferences they think woodlice might have, such as do they prefer dark or light, or do they prefer warm or cold, or damp or hot, damp or dry, and possibly even feeding preferences, what kind of food they might prefer. So you can leave it up to them to discuss what kind of preferences woodlice might have. And from there, then you put it to them that they can now start to think about designing some experiments to test their hypothesis on the living conditions of woodlice. So they can set up simple choice chambers then, and many students will come up with something simple along these lines. This is a simple cardboard box that is divided in two, where the woodlice are placed inside, and the light is put on top of the box, and students time whatever they decide themselves, and they might give it 5 or 10 minutes for the woodlice to make their choice between dark or light. And in other boxes it might be dry or damp, or it might be with a choice of different kinds of food, maybe food choices for the woodlice. So the nice thing about this activity then is that students are very much involved in the design of this experiment. They're involved in the collecting of the data. They decide how many times they want to run their tests, how many woodlice they need to use, what kind of environmental factors they're going to investigate, and then how to present their data. So data is collected, and then the students will present it as first of all in tables and in bar charts. It's a really more than students learn about woodlice. They learn about the nature of science, the nature of scientific method, and the nature of how to carry out controlled experiments, how to carry out what's meant by hypothesis, and how hypotheses can be developed, how to analyze data, how to draw conclusions from that data, and then how to refine their experiments over time. This could be a very simple 1 or 2 lesson activity, or it could be something that is a much more open inquiry activity where students are asked to develop their laboratory approach over a couple of weeks. So yeah, the wonderful world of woodlice. So just to add that no woodlice were harmed during the course of these experiments. And actually there's a serious point here. It's not often that we can bring animals into the laboratory. There's not too many animals that you can bring in easily. So the nice thing about using woodlice is they are very robust. They're as long as they're looked after, they won't be harmed, they won't be damaged. When I do this, I set up a tank and put some soil in there, make sure it's damp, and some leaves and some bark, and the woodlice can be kept in there for weeks, and they'll be perfectly happy in there. In fact, we've seen the woodlice start to breed in there. The other thing is that it's an opportunity for you to open up the conversation about the ethics of using animals in the laboratory for scientific research. And a lot of students are horrified about the idea of bringing small creatures into the lab, and woodlice don't move very quickly. They're an easy one for students that are inexperienced, or maybe have sort of phobias about creepy crawlies, that they don't move around really quickly, and so they're easy to contain. And students kind of get relatively comfortable with them. Most students, anyway, get relatively comfortable with them over the time that they work with them. So yeah, the wonderful world of woodlice.